Well, hello everyone, and we'll be doing an update on Bitcoin today. It's going to be a fantastic Saturday. I hope all of you in the United States had a happy Thanksgiving and a long weekend on top. So yeah, we're going to take a look at Bitcoin, but before I get started, you all know the drill. This isn't financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm here just to give my opinion on the market. You can agree with it, you can disagree with it. That is your prerogative. So therefore, it is your responsibility for managing your own risk, doing your own trades, putting in your own entry and exits, and doing your own research. Again, I'm just here to give my opinion. All right, so I do want to take a look at three different views on Bitcoin. I'm taking a look at the Bitcoin CME futures. I'm going to be taking a look at GBTC, which is our over-the-counter, and I'm also going to be taking a look at BitMEX. All of these three different views of Bitcoin do tend to be, the more prominent, the more moving. Markets to pay attention to. So let's take a look at Bitcoin CME futures. All right, so we have this big channel that we've been looking at for a while. The channel here does look a little bit better than any other channel out there. So compared to say where you have BitMEX, right? So with all of the blow off tops and all of the overextensions, it's not as clear on what this channel actually is. All right, so one thing that I do want to point out here is that we basically just got rejected at this trend line. So what I have, the yellow lines here, this is basically the top and the bottom of the channel, and then the green line is the median, right? So we did kind of bounce off the median over here. So right over here, we had a nice bounce right out of the median. And now what we just recently had at the end of the last trading session is a rejection off of this trend line, which is halfway between the median and the top. You could consider this the 50% of this top 50%. So a good rejection there. We have our hourly and our 3-hour Stokes that are already pretty overextended. So if I go down to the 1 hour, basically what we can see here, I wouldn't say that this is necessarily, bearish divergence, but we have a higher high here. And then as far as our Stokes go down here, we don't really have any bearish divergence on the RSI. The hourly is still pretty flat, but nonetheless, the 3 hour has just kind of been flatlined up here throughout this entire move, which leads me to believe that there probably is going to be a pullback. And this is just looking at the CME charts, and CME closed at about 78.05 at the end of the trading session. So the 1 hour started to close a little bit green, but nonetheless, it was, once it hit this top out here, we got, that was at about 7,900, 7,930, something like that. It did start to pull back a bit. As far as support goes on the CME charts, I would say that level at 76.80 is pretty important because we have a top here, we have a rejection here, and then of course we had several rejections. We had a little bit of a top there. We pushed through it, and I do talk about this kind of stuff all the time. I'm like, all right, well, this is resistance, so now we need to push up, claim this as support, and again, this is at about 76.80, and then move up and beyond, keeping in mind that the Bitcoin CME futures are trading a little bit at a premium compared to spot prices. And then also, BitMEX, just to be clear, is typically in line to a certain extent with spot prices. Even though BitMEX does offer futures markets, their perpetual market is generally based off of spot prices. That's where the index comes from. So as I talk about all the time, I would typically say, all right, we moved up beyond our resistance. Now we should come back and retest the support, and then we can finally then move up and beyond. All right, so just keeping that in mind, that is something to pay attention to. It is something to pay attention to, but on this one in particular, on this retest in particular, what I want to see, in order for this to really round out and move to the upside, our stochastics really have to reset. So this will take time unless it falls straight through. All right, so now let's go ahead and go take a look at GBTC, our Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. This is our over-the-counter. Now, there was a big sell-off on GBTC, which kind of took us back down here to our support level. And so this level right here, this is pretty important, right? So the sell-off on GBTC into the close, that is telling me that there is likely going to be selling going on this weekend. Now again, we'll get to BitMEX here in just a minute, but selling off, the hourly stokes are crossing down, the 3 hours kind of getting into our bullish control zone, but expecting there to be a little bit of a rejection there. The 12-hour, the 12-hour, I'm not going to pay too much attention to it right now, even though the 12-hour trend shows likely will be more upside, but the hourly and the 3-hour are exhausted, which leads me to believe that short term there is going to be some downside. Now, keeping in mind that this 12-hour can stay down here for a while, which, as you can tell, if we go back here, this 12-hour sat down here for a long time, and then you can see we rolled over and we failed this support zone, we failed it and came down, and then once the 12-hour crossed up with a little bit more conviction, we got a little bit more run up here to this level, which is also going to be our next resistance area if we get back up here. So we had support many times, and then here we had our resistance. So if we do test this, I would say that we're probably going to move up to this level right here, which is at about 1079, 1080. So this is going to be our first level of rejection, and then that next level is going to be up here. So we have several areas to push through. All right, now let's go and take a look at what we're all here for, Bitcoin on BitMEX. All right, so very interesting thing here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Actually, I probably want to move to a 3-hour chart here. All right, so on the 3-hour chart, and again, right now we're trading at about 75.62, which is actually pretty important that we have crossed below, at least for the short term, 7,600. I'll talk about 7,600 here in a second. But what I want to focus on is these clusters here. So these resistance levels that I have pinpointed, I'm going to show the significance behind all of these. So first we have a rejection here. We have a rejection here. We pushed through, but then we had more rejection in this area. So I do expect this to be significant resistance moving itself up because, again, we had support here, very little support here. We flew through it after a couple attempts, and that's at 8,400. Now, do I think we're going to get there? I'm not really quite sure. So this cluster that we had over here, this is at about 8,200, 8,175 or so. We also had, more confluence of resistance here. And then we had our bearish consolidation in this level as well before we finally did break down. One more thing that I want to point out is if we take a look at this from an Elliott wave perspective, so from the top here, and I don't like calling this the top up here, I'm going to move myself down, on a real count. If we look at Coinbase or something like that, this would start a little bit lower. But what I'm seeing here is we have our wave 1 here and our wave 2, and that's again where I'm pulling this Fibonacci from to measure the length of the 3. And then we have our move down here to create this 3, and then we've just created a 4, and we can come higher. We can come to this 8,200 mark, right? There is some confluence there for us to go a little bit higher. But nonetheless, what we're going to then be looking for is we're going to be looking for this move down here to about 5,900. Okay, so this is what we're looking for, right? That doesn't mean that that's what has to happen. I could be completely wrong, and this 3 could be here. This 4 could be here, although it is pretty shallow. And then this 5 would be down here. That is also valid, so just keep that in mind. But what I'm going to be looking for is a deep move beyond the channel down here to, and again, back over here, I was saying buy between what was it, 7,100 and 7,300, something along those lines. I was saying that you should be buying right here, and that trade played out. That trade is gone. All right. So now what I'm saying is that you should be buying somewhere between 5,500 and 5,900, maybe 6,000. Right. So in this level down here this is where I am now interested in buying. I'm interested in accumulating down here. Right. So the accumulation that was right through here, this is come and gone, right? And so now we're basically, having a rejection here at the 50, which is, a good area for rejection, right? And now we're on our way down, right? We're moving down, and I'm going to be looking for this level down here at, again, 5,500 to 5,900, 6,000, somewhere in that area. So you have about a $500 range where you could be layering bids, right? And so layering bids is something that I do talk about quite a bit with a lot of people. A lot of people don't layer bids appropriately. They just say, all right, well, I'm just going to go all in at 6,000, right? Where you have an opportunity to move your bids, spread them out, and take that trade. All right, so right now, let me go ahead and go back to an hourly chart. We'll take a look at a couple things from a lower time frame perspective, right? So let's just take a look at this here, and we're going to go from here up to here. So we have, we have a clear trend line, which could take us up here to the 618, right? Yes, Pajit, I am live right now. Okay, so could take us up here to the 618, right? So up here. The other area here, we've got this right here. So this would create a little bit of a channel. But then we also have this, what a lot of people are also looking at, which is this rising wedge, right? Which again could take us up here, but we have broken beyond this rising wedge, and we've actually also retested the lower of this, which is more than likely why we're having this little micro sell-off right now. Not too significant. What I'm really interested here is this move to go down here, and then this would basically determine, and again, this is down here at about 7,300. This is going to determine if this next move is going to take us up here to the 618, then for the rejection. So I'm not saying that we're going straight down to 55 to 5,900. I don't think that is what is going to happen. We're not going to go straight there. This stuff will take time, but the 12-hour is overbought. And we haven't seen the 12-hour overbought in a long time. We have some extreme hidden bearish divergence on the 12-hour. The 3-hour here on the BitMEX chart does show a little bit of bearish divergence. The hourly just barely shows some bearish divergence. Even on the RSI, it's just barely there. So I'm not too concerned about calling extreme bearish divergence. We're now going to zero, but it does show that we are going to be pulling back. I don't think Bitcoin is going to $1,000 just quite yet. I'm not ready to say we're going to go to 1,000. What I'm saying right now is that we are likely going to have a pullback to 55 to 5,900. Likely we're going to get some relief there, right? So if you are short in this area, likely that's going to pay off at some point, but again, we could be moving up here to the 8,150, 8,200 mark, which also coincides, depending on how far out we go, this coincides with the median of the BitMEX channel. Okay, so let's take a look at the BitMEX channel here. Moving up to a 4-hour time frame. This is our channel that we have on BitMEX. Everybody is taking a look at this as a completion to the correction, down here in this zone. I'm not so sure that this Z is actually going to be here. It could be that it could be that this just takes a long time for it to play out. We'll have to just wait and see. But this the 618 of this fib pull takes us right here to the median of this channel. So it's possible that we have another one of these happening right now. Not saying that it's going to extend beyond the median, but it is possible that we go up here to the 786, which is right here at about 86.30 or so. That doesn't violate the Elliott rules for violating the 1, right? So if this is a 1, 2, and then we completed a 3, now we're going up for the 4, we could come up here to the 786, although I don't think it's likely. It is possible. Okay, so that's the BitMEX channel that I've got here. Notice that I did not take it, right? I did not take it from the top. This is a channel that I have been channeling just since the bottom of this first correction down here at 9,000, right? We hit 9,000, then we went up here, we hit 12,000 and change, and this is where I'm pulling this channel from. I do like the structure of it just a little bit more. It also coincides with the top here where we had our major buying spree on October 25th. All right, so final thoughts. Final thoughts on Bitcoin. We are likely going to have, maybe a rejection here. We do have a bit of support and resistance clustering here at this level where we are finding support. This is also the 382 that we are finding support at 75.50. So it is possible that we do move up, right? When we move down, this is the level that I'm going to be first interested in us breaking, which is going to be at about 73.50. Okay, so we have support here in this zone, likely is going to get bought up, and then 8,200 is likely where this is going to go if we do get our support here. So if we start closing hourlies back inside of this range here, then I would expect that the 618 is going to be in play. We're likely going to move up and pop up to 8,200. But if we start closing inside of this range, this is going to be the area where I am interested in a breakdown occurring. If we start closing down here, this is bad. If we start closing, I would say in this range right here, likely accumulation is going to be taking place, and that would mean that we are going to be moving up. Okay, not really a good trade setup here. Really, to be completely honest, not really good trade setup, especially to the upside. Your risk versus reward is not that great right here. I would say that you're going to be looking for the short between 7,900. That's going to be about right here. Actually, right above where we had this four wave here, where I'm marking the top of the four. Okay, so if we do extend up and beyond this, then I do think that layering bids in this range, even though it is a wide range to be layering bids, I would layer them up to 8,200. And as far as taking a stop, right? So taking a stop probably at 83, 8,400. If we get up here to 8,400, then the short here at 8,200 is probably a bad trade. So just keeping that in mind. I would say that you're probably right, that this area right here, this is a liquid zone, which is why I'm not expecting hourlies to close inside of it. If we start consolidating in here, then that would show that there's a lack of conviction in the market, and we are likely going to break down. But if we consolidate above 7,500, then I would say that we're likely going to make that move to the upside. So if you're in it for quick trades, I would say that buying down here and expecting the move to the upside to happen, that's likely going to play out. But again, if we start consolidating down here and we don't see a move back up here into this control zone, then likely it's going to break down. But maybe even spot bids are very low leverage longs down here. If you're in it for the very short term, right? If you're in it for hedging against a short that you have, some low leverage long bids down here. It's 74 to 74.50. This range, maybe even all the way down to 73.50. Likely could play out and move up here to 8,200, which is where I would get out of that trade. Maybe even taking profit off the table at 7,900, because likely what could happen up here, right? Because if we get up here to this zone, and I'll go ahead and just, I'll end this here in just a moment. If we get up here into this zone, even just up here to create a double top, it could come straight down. You could just get caught. You won't have time to get out of that trade. So it's very important to pay yourself, especially in these short trades, right? When I say short trades, I mean short-term trades. Because likely we could have just a wick, right? That could get us up there. So a really great example is this right here, right? You didn't have a whole lot of opportunity, a whole long time to get into a trade up here, 7,800. It went up there and then it got rejected, and it got rejected in a big way. So if you weren't there sitting and waiting, as I was asleep at 5 o'clock in the morning, then you weren't able to take that trade unless you had asks already sitting up there. So these are the types of scam wicks that you would expect to see on BitMEX before a continuation in the opposite direction, which is what we had. So right now, I'm really expecting some resistance to be here at 7,700. I would expect there to be some support in this area, but if we start consolidating below, I say 75.50. If we start consolidating between 74.50 and 75.50, I do expect a move to the downside. So that is my 20 minutes on Bitcoin today, this morning, this happy Saturday morning. Here it is, 9:40 in the morning, Eastern Daylight Time. And wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a fabulous weekend, a fabulous day, fabulous night, wherever you are. And I will catch you all in the Discord. If you don't have an invite, just go ahead and throw in a comment and I will get an invite for you. I've got a couple invites I need to send out this morning yet. And I will catch you all.